So Gigi Scott, in addition to being a full-time student at Angelo State University, you work as the student manager for the Fostering Ram Success Program. Tell us what that program is and what it does.
So that is a new program that has come along in the last couple of years. Dr. Flores is actually our foster care liaison, and then I work as part of the team kind of under him, so we're kind of the boots on the ground. We come alongside of former and current foster students who are attempting to come into college, and so sometimes we help them in the beginning process of their application. Once they're admitted, then we help them through the admission process of getting room and board and securing their meal plan and their classes and things like that. And then we also stay with them throughout their college career. We kind of have to act, how I would explain it is I kind of feel like my role is almost kind of like a mom to them. It just comes second nature to me because I am a mom. So I kind of come aside next to them and I make sure that they're able to purchase their books, that they're attending classes. If they're struggling at all, I will reach out to their professors and kind of talk to them and give them a little bit of heads up, see what we can do to help them, that kind of thing.
So what are the sort of challenges that a foster student may face on a college campus that their classmates may not?
They face a lot of challenges. They're a unique population, so they have unique challenges as well. Like I said, I think one of the most challenging things for them is they don't have that family support. So they don't have someone guiding them and telling them, calling them, did you make it to class today? How are you doing? A lot of times they just show up on campus and they have no idea what to do. They didn't know what an academic advisor is. They don't know what their major is going to be. They didn't know they were supposed to have a minor. So we just kind of come alongside them and kind of help guide them. So one time we were helping them move into the dorms, and one of the students came up and she had her friend with her and she said, "This is Gigi. She's kind of like my life advisor." And I thought that kind of summed it up. I'm not trying to tell them what to do with their life, but I am trying to come alongside them and kind of champion them and help them succeed in college.
So it's really just a matter of supporting them in whatever way that they may need.
Right, and you never know. Sometimes they may come up and they need something as simple as a shower curtain, and maybe they don't have the means to get those things for their dorms because, you know, sometimes they show up and they have a box of their belongings and that's all they have, and they don't have that family support, someone to say, hey, we'll purchase that for you. So sometimes in the office we'll pull funds and go purchase those things. So sometimes it's something as simple as that, and sometimes they need tutoring and they don't know where the tutoring center is, or they don't know how to ask for help, or they don't know where is the TSI testing center at. So we're just a good resource for them. And speaking of resources, we also help them with outside community resources. So there's different community partners that we have that can also help them with funds and things like that we kind of plug them into and help them with.
Now you have sort of a personal connection with this program and these students because you have been a foster mom.
Right. And
you're a first generation college student. Talk about how you can relate to these students from those two different perspectives.
I actually had a student come in the other day that was having a little bit of challenge, and that's exactly how I started the conversation with her. I said, you know, me and my husband had did foster care for 3 years. We had 18 foster students, and we actually adopted our oldest daughter out of foster care, so I kind of have seen the foster care side of it. I said, I'm also a student at ASU, so I go through the same kind of challenges that you go through. When I got onto campus, I didn't know where anything was. I had transferred from Howard College over to ASU, so I know what it's like to be the new student on campus and not know where anything is. So I feel like I have worn a couple of different hats that help shape me and be able to reach out to the students. I felt like when I told her all that, I could kind of see her relax a little bit. Okay, you might know where I'm coming from.
So it sounds like you feel a really special sense of responsibility to these kids. Why is that?
I do. Like I said, just being involved in foster care in the past, and I feel like their success is my success. If they're struggling, then I'm not doing the best I can in my job. When I see them succeed, I celebrate with them. And it's pretty neat to go through and see the students in different seasons of their life, starting off as a freshman and going into their sophomore year, and eventually, you know, hopefully they'll graduate. And I want to be there at their graduation, cheering them on just like I have from the first time that they called my office or emailed us.
So you're studying communications at Angelo State. You're obviously a non-traditional student.
Right, yeah.
So talk about your journey, your path that sort of led you to a college education at this stage in your life.
I always wanted to go to college, except I just didn't get the chance to, because as soon as my husband and I got married, we went ahead and did foster care, and we did that for 3 years. And then we kind of felt like it was time to start our family, so we had adopted our daughter and had some kids. And in the meantime, my husband had went to school, and I saw the opportunities that opened for him. And that dream of mine never was extinguished. I always wanted to go. And when my little one started pre-K, I was kind of sitting at home like I'm just here all day. I've been at mom for the last 15 years, and now I'm just at home, so I think I'm going to pursue that dream. And people who know me now would never believe it, but when I went to Howard College, I had my husband go with me, and I was standing at the counter and with a blank look on my face, like I don't know what to do. I'm so scared to be here. And the lady said, "Can I help you?" And I was just blank, and my husband said, "My wife wants to sign up for college." So he had to speak that, and now just seeing full circle where I've gone, it's hilarious to me and the people that know me that I'm just not like that. I'm a completely different person. But as I tell people before, my grades in high school weren't the best, and I wasn't the most committed student, but I'm very committed to my education now, and I feel like non-traditional students have a lot on the line because they have more to lose. A lot of them have families, they're older in life, they're juggling family with work, and they got to make it work.
Now, we were chatting before we turned on the cameras, and you mentioned to me you have a 4.0. I'll brag about you, even if perhaps you won't. And you were devastated because you had a 93 average in one of your classes recently. So you mentioned that you're hard on yourself, and this is important to you. Why is it so important to you? Why are you so hard on yourself when it comes to your academic performance?
Yeah, I'm harder on myself than most people are. They tell me to lighten up a little bit, but like I said, I have a lot to lose. I have scholarships that are on the line. And I put a goal out there when I first started school. I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this to the best of my abilities, and I want to graduate with a 4.0. I'm in the second semester of my senior year, so after these 5 classes, I have 4 more to go. So I have a total of 9 more A's that I need to obtain. But with a lot of hard practice and studying, I'm going to do it.
So you mentioned about foster care and you and your husband serving as foster parents. Why were you guys moved to do that?
We actually heard a commercial on the radio, and my husband had heard it, and it was just kind of tugging on his heartstrings. I don't even remember what it was, and he came home and told me, and I was kind of like, I don't know, and I was 20 at the time, and so I kind of thought, well, I don't have anything to lose. I guess we could do this. We're young and we don't have our own kids, and so it's funny because you have to be 21 to have children placed with you, and so I got my home study done and everything completely done by the time I turned 20 in February, and I turned 21 in April. And so people were waiting on us for me to turn 21, and I turned 21 on April 27th, and 5 days later I had my first kids. So it's always funny, I always just kind of joke, most people when they turn 21, they usually want to go party for their birthday, and I got a couple of brothers for my birthday.
So how do you feel like being a foster parent changed you?
Oh, well, because I was so young, it really opened my eyes to what happens in the world, and unfortunately, there's evil out there just as much as there is good. But I think it changed me and shaped me to be a better person and more compassionate, because I do really try to talk to people on an interpersonal level and kind of get to know their background and try not to judge them and kind of be there for them. And I learned all that by being a foster parent, because you just never know where these students come from, what their past has been. You couldn't imagine the kind of things that happened to them, and I wanted to be that bright beacon in their life to be able to guide them and help change them for the better and show them that even though there may be this evil or this injustice out there, that there's just as much good that can come out of it as well.
So if someone has thought about this at one point or another, what's the pitch that you might make to them about why they should seriously consider being a foster parent? Because they're in great need here in Tom Green County. Yes,
we actually had a concert recently that I was helping with, trying to recruit foster parents as well. And, I was guided by my faith, honestly. I just felt like it was a calling to that. And I definitely think that you do need to be called to do foster care. I don't think it's something you should just decide to do one day. I think you need to do your research and kind of look into it and see what it's about. I would encourage them to talk to other current and former foster families, because that's going to give you a very accurate picture of what life is like. There were some things I wasn't prepared for when I went in because I didn't know any other foster parents, so we were learning along the way. But I would definitely say if you feel that tug on your heart, it is worth looking into, it is worth investing your time into it, because like I said, I adopted my daughter out of it, and that's the best thing that could have came out of it. People always say, oh, she's so blessed to have you guys, and I don't see it that way. I see I'm so blessed to have her. Could not imagine not having her in my life.
Well, that's the perfect transition to what I was going to ask you about next, because you were nominated in one of the best nominations I've read in our 3 or 4 years of doing this. You were nominated by your 16-year-old daughter, and you have 3 daughters, but your 16-year-old daughter, Liana,
Liana.
which I thought was just incredibly sweet. I mean, she did such a wonderful job on your nomination. And she said that you have made an effort to expose her to volunteer service. So why have you felt that that was good and important for her to experience volunteer service and see her mom doing volunteer service as well?
Like I said, both my husband and I were non-traditional students, and whenever he was in school, I was pregnant with our third daughter, and so there was some periods of lean in our income back then, and I always felt like it doesn't matter what you make or how much you make or how little you make, you can always give in some way or another. And we had actually started off with, we would get samples in the mail for different shampoos and things like that, and it was actually her idea to give those back to homeless people that were on the sides of the road. So we would make these little paper sacks and we'd put food in there, you know, that we got with coupons or whatever, and little samples and things like that, and we would go, and as we were driving down, she'd pull it out, hand it out the window, and she was so excited to do it, and just to see that joy in her. So that was when she was little, and then as I've gotten older, I really do try to give back to the community. I may not have a lot of money to give somebody, but I always have time that I can carve out for being able to help people. And so I have made it a point to bring her with me because I want her to see that it's not about you. Sometimes this generation, it may seem like everything's about you. It's really not about you. There's so much of a bigger picture out there, and I want her to be able to see that she can serve others. You're never too good or too busy or too high up there to not serve someone else.
So you were involved in a number of civic endeavors. Which one or two of those do you feel like are most dear to you?
The soup kitchen. I think that's kind of one of the ones that I started with every Valentine's Day, one of the favorite ones they do. I do volunteer throughout the year with different groups, including ASU. Even some of my projects at school, I will get other ASU students to go with me and do a group project out there. But they do have a soup kitchen one on Valentine's Day where they actually come in and we serve those people. We bring the food out to them in a restaurant kind of style. And just to see the looks on their faces, it's weird to them because usually they get their food at the window and then carry it out to their plate, and so they're so thankful, and that's what is so moving to me, is that I'm serving them and I feel like I'm getting the most out of it, but they are turning around, they're saying thank you so much, thank you so much. And my daughter is actually, that's one of her favorite ones, and we do that every year together, we always do, and she always likes to man the candy bars and hand out the candy bars and little chocolate hearts and everything like that. So that is an organization that's very near and dear to my heart. I love to go to the soup kitchen and help out, and I always encourage my friends and my family to come with me.
So with being a full-time student, a student worker, and a parent, how do you decide which efforts you're going to devote yourself, your time and your energies towards? Because those are a lot of demands being placed on you at all times.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in the saying that you make time for the things that are important to you and you make excuses for the things that are not. So if you see me doing something, it's because I made time to do it. So usually my family and school are pretty close together. My family's a little bit above, but they're pretty close together because they're a priority to me. So that may mean that in the afternoons I pick my children up from school and I'm doing their homework with them until dinner time. And then when they go to bed, I'm doing my homework. And so I just feel like there's some fringe hours around that you can carve out and you can find time for. And sometimes if that's straightening my hair in the morning and my book's open and I'm reading my book while I'm straightening my hair, a lot of it's multitasking. But a lot of it I have to attribute to my husband because we make a really good team. And so he takes the kids in the morning and I pick them up, and it's like we're tag teaming and one of us is in the ring and the other one tags and the other one's in. And so I couldn't do it without him either.
You're also involved in a number of college campus organizations and efforts. Why have you felt that was important?
I feel like you should always be growing as a person. You should always be striving to be a little bit better, do something a little bit different. And you can, as a leader, have a vision for yourself, but it's one thing to follow someone else's vision and to be able to help them. So I'm actually involved in Ambassadors at ASU. And I really love that because I'm able to meet a bunch of different people through that. And like I said, just doing an internship and teaching the undergrad students, I just feel like it's important to be a role model and a mentor to people who are younger than you. I look up to a lot of people that are older than me, and I also look up to people that are younger than me. And I just feel like seeing it in someone else's eyes, going to these different organizations and being a part of something bigger than yourself is really one of my goals.
Is that a challenge, or is it ever perhaps a little bit awkward being a non-traditional student sort of fitting in with those campus efforts?
Well, let me tell you, usually people don't believe how old I am, and I'm not going to say that on camera. how old I am, but usually.
We know you're under 40.
Right, that's all that matters. I'm under 40. I came in under the radar. But a lot of times, I guess God graced me with a little bit of youthful face, and so a lot of times people don't realize I'm so much older than them. So I'm usually the only one aware of that, and I'll say some corny joke or something that dates me, so I try to watch that. But usually it's when I mention my daughter or my husband, and people say, well, how many kids do you have? And then I'll tell them, and then of course the next question is, well, how old is your oldest? And so then when I tell them 16, I can see the math in their head, forming. And then they're like, oh my gosh, you're how old? So usually if I don't mention something like that, not that I'm hiding it, but if I just fail to mention it, I don't have a problem. But I feel like I form good bonds and relationships with my peers and my classmates that even people who have known me for a while and then find out that I'm non-traditional, it doesn't faze them.
Now, your daughter also called you a, quote, natural-born leader. Do you think that's true of yourself?
I don't know. If you would have asked me that even 5 years ago, I would have said no. And that's what I talk about, my mentors being so important to me. It's important to surround yourself by mentors who can see something in you that you can't see. Obviously, Lana sees something in me that maybe I don't quite see. I've heard that, be said before about me, but I don't know if I necessarily kind of believe that. I do feel like there's something there, but I'm always just striving to do better. And I think it's because of the mentors that I surround myself with say, I can see that you're going to be X, Y, Z. And sometimes I doubt myself, and then it happens and they say, see, I told you. So as things have developed and it happened, including this great honor, then I can kind of see that it is starting to form.
Well, and I was going to say, what if we just excised natural born out and just said leader? Is that something you could buy into?
Yeah, I could buy into leader, yeah.
So how do you define leadership, Gigi?
So leadership to me is all about having a we attitude and not a me attitude. My type of leader is different from maybe what corporate America would be. I feel like a good leader has the attributes that a good person has. So a good leader is somebody who's compassionate, that builds meaningful interpersonal relationships with people, that care about people. They're the first one there and the last ones to leave, and they wouldn't ask you to do something that they're not willing to do themselves.
So who is someone in your life who's maybe done that for you, inspired you, or shaped you in some meaningful way?
I have a couple of different people, but I would say in the last few years, Pam Callan, who works at Howard College, is one of the ones. She, from the beginning, said, I see something in you, there's something good for you. And even to this day, she texts me quite often. And the other day, I'm applying to grad school, and I said, I just don't know about this. I just don't know if I'm going to get in. And she said, no, you will. And I said, that's nice, but I'm a realist. And I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. And she wrote me back and said, no, I'm wholly optimistic. So it's nice to have her in my life. She's also, besides build me up, she's also been real with me before. And sometimes when I've tried to do something that might be questionable, or she can't really see the outcome that maybe I was thinking, she'll call me out on it and say, well, I'm not really understanding this part of it. And it's important to listen to other people's views and to not block them out and try to see it from their angle. And when she said that, it was something that actually put me on the journey that I am today. So I highly regard her.
So what would you say to young moms who think that they couldn't possibly balance motherhood, school, and work all at the same time?
I would say it's hard, but it's doable. You might cry, you might want to pull your hair out, but you can do it. I had been out of school so long when I went back to school that when I was in math class, I had math on Mondays, and I would come home and I would open my book and I would look at it, and it was like a foreign language to me, and I would just want to cry. And it got dubbed Math Mondays. I just hated Math Mondays. It was another reason to hate Mondays. But I made it through with an A. So you can do it. I think it's important, like I said, to surround yourself with people who are willing to support you. And when it comes down to it, those people are in your corner. And one of my other mentors the other day just told me, they may be in the corner, but they're not the ones taking the hits, it's you. And that's true. And you gotta have the want to and the will to get it done.
Well, it certainly seems to have worked out for you. It's a big honor to be one of the 20 under 40.
Thank
Congratulations,
you.
Gigi
Thank you so
Scott.
much. I appreciate it.